future. If we don't win this, these monsters under demonic control, literally, will have us chipped and tagged and enslaved out into the rest of time. Once they've got us in their Tholian web, their machinery, we'll never break loose of it. The electronic barriers will be so pervasive that you'll never get free of it. And those people that own the controls, the mechanisms, they won't relinquish. This is about the survival, not even just of America, but of humanity.
The White Hats have to be in charge, because you wouldn't be seeing all this in front of your eyes if it wasn't the case, right? If we weren't winning, if we weren't really prevailing, all this would be hidden, just like the election fraud in the past, right? This isn't the first election that's ever been corrupted. It's just the first time that we really see it so evidently, and with so much, such an obvious popular candidate, in this case Trump, doing so well. Right? In the past, it was just controlled. You never, every election, Obama, who the heck was Obama? He was created, right? He was CIA his whole life. He was put up there and created from day one. Clinton, completely co-opted and controlled. Bush, all these people, total NWO deep state creatures, swamp creatures, right? So the fact that every election has been a selection process, and now people are actually realizing, wow, our elections are not free and fair and what we thought they were. Already, this means that their game is up.
Well, yeah, once you see the strings up the sleeve of the magician, once you understand how the trick's done, this magician behind the curtain thing, you can't unsee it. And that's what's happening for America. This is a near-death experience for us as a nation, to see and sense and feel and taste what it would be like had were these people able to stay in office. But it's not going to stand much longer. I know there's plenty of people, is it going to be 2022, 2024? Are you kidding? This will be over long before that. And even with things that are happening right now. So we're, keep the faith. We got this. It may be a little difficult to watch for the moment, and you're going to have a dual presidency period because the military has not handed over the reins to the Biden people. Congress can, the courts have, but and the states may be looking at it that way, but a lot of the states are understanding this too now. Even the Texas and Mississippi now have both said, okay, we're done. Enough of the mask game. We're not going to have our country or our state shut down by this crap. Texas has a threat at the border going on right now with people wanting to flood in. And I think the governor's going to have to take action, force the feds to take action. Again, I do see some kind of a crisis that is, it could be Cuban Missile Crisis type thing, a border crisis, something that forces the hand of everybody involved and the military to say, no, we don't recognize the outcome as being Biden winning the presidency. We're not handing over the keys to the jet, the helicopter, the launch codes, etc. And by the way, they haven't. Cheyenne Mountain's still locked up tight as a drum. So you can live in your illusion, or you can be in the reality. The military has not agreed. There may be some things, I know that people are pointing at northern Syria and all that. Some things may have to have occurred, but the big handoff has not occurred. And if it were to occur, the American people, the majority of those that voted for President Trump. And they know that. There's no question in the minds of this broad base of Americans who won the election. The question is how and where and when is the fraud going to be pushed back on? And if for some reason it didn't get pushed back and turned around, if the courts are captured if Congress is captured, if an enemy has captured all of these operations, and we have Manchurian Candidate in place, if the military was unable to reverse that, yes, you would have civil war in America, because the American people aren't putting up with it. They're not getting the guns taken away, and they're not going to hand over the reins of power to these foreign controlled outside groups. And the DNC at this point in time is. You can say anything you want. You can shut down the conversation in the social media and everything else. Give us the program news. The American people feel it down in their soul and their core. And even with the states, like with what Texas just did, that's because the people, the broad majority of the people in the state, would not continue to go along with this fraud.
Right.
And the governors feel it. The business people are feeling the pressure from the people at the street level. They're not going to let you run them out of business. They're going to be able to survive and feed their families and keep things going. And they know this fraud is a fraud.
Yeah.
You know, a COVID cured the flu.
Yeah, no, it's you know, I talked to a cabbie in Vegas. Exactly. It was exactly, he's like, well, COVID has cured cancer, the flu, pneumonia, diabetes, heart disease. I mean, it's just like, people get it. And what you're saying is, it does resonate with me. It's like, you know, how do you defeat a fraudulent system, right? Well, the system has been fraudulent for a long time, as we understand. The United States Corporation, right? Ever since 1871, I think it was, that they basically turned it from the Constitution of the United States to the Constitution for the United States Incorporated. And since that point, we've been a corporation. And so how do you basically throw off I wouldn't call it civil war. I would say it's Declaration of Independence redux. It's revolution redux. It's how do you throw off a foreign entity that is Washington, D.C. And you talked about this. You got to put a fence around it. Well, that's done. And you've got to basically treat it as a foreign parasitic state, which it is. And then you start to go to the state level, the local level, the county level, the sheriff saying no to the governors, the governors saying no to the president, you know, saying this executive order is unconstitutional. You know, your attempts to sort of, whether it's gun rights, border issues, you know, it's basically saying, no, you, federal government, do not have that right to violate the Constitution of the United States, the original Constitution for this republic. And I think that's where we're going in a way. It's like, now Trump, whatever happens, you know, in the federal courts, it's like Trump is still, when he speaks, people listen. When Biden speaks, no one listens. That table.
And here in America, the American people, they have the first mortgage rights on their country, and we're not giving our country away. We're not having it sold out. That's why, like a lot of the tribes around the country, they're smart, and it's even a Jubilee thing in the Bible. They can lease tribal lands to outsiders for some period of time, but they don't get title deed to it. They just are getting it, you know, for a long-term rent situation. Eventually it goes back to the original heirs of that group. So for example, Hong Kong was leased, you know, for 100 years or whatever it was. And when it came to the end of that lease period, it reverted back to China as far as the land. Because China didn't sell it, they leased it long term. The people that live there, though, there's a different story there, because it's a whole new generation, and they don't want to live under Chinese law and rule. They want to be independent. So here in America, there may be long-term contracts that were issued, even related to currency and to these banking groups, etc. At the end of the day, we're a different generation. We're not gonna be sold out. We're not going to be enslaved because people 100 years ago, under some kind of a fraud, agreed to a fraud and to steal our life, our treasure, our homeland. Not going to happen. And we're going to take our country back. We're going to do that, taking our currency back. President Trump, last year at the beginning of the COVID crisis, moved Federal Reserve operations back under direct authority of the Treasury, away from the Federal Reserve Board. And the Federal Reserve operations answer directly to the head of the Treasury, and then to the president. Once the interest rates got down low, Federal Reserve is a Puerto Rican corporation, just like the IRS. Courts have found this. If it bothers you, I'm sorry. It's just a fact. We're about to go to war to take back these operations here in the country. The presidency of this corporation that you speak of is a very real thing. Washington, D.C. is considered a foreign city. It's a point of foreign occupation, controlling the rest of the country. Even tax laws based on this Washington, D.C. thing, but it's enforced as though it goes across the whole country. I'll be doing some publications on that as the year progresses. This is important to the conversation right now, because if you're going to have the military have to decide who they are going to back, and if they aren't handing over the keys to the jet, the helicopter, the beast, the missile codes, it's because they question and have come to some type of determination as to the validity of this vote. And they aren't handing over control of the military to this Biden administration. They are now in the process of looking what's a valid president, who's the valid president based on the election. Is there a need for a revote, or is the vote understood enough that we just hand the election over to Trump, who did in fact win the vote? And it's my contention that that's exactly what's about to transpire. Somewhere in here. Is it the 4th, 5th, or 6th? Well, something was paid for as an event, an inaugural event in D.C., but that's not, we only have through a glass darkly to see what's going on. We all have to wait and see. Both sides, this is Casino Royale for planet Earth, for the United States. This next few days and weeks are going to be very, drama-filled. It would be my contention that the military is going to recognize that President Trump won. We will have a dual presidency where Congress and the courts have recognized a Biden win for whatever reason through the Electoral College. And there's going to be a bit of a dust-up over who the legitimate president of the United States is, and the American people, by how they respond to this, will lock that in, if you will, and the governors, because the courts have refused to hear these cases from the various states. Will it be a civil war like the Civil War back in the 1800s? My contention is it will not be. This is a revolutionary war. It was foreign entities, foreign forces, foreign powers who, especially within the NATO group, who militarized a digital attack on America in this vote fraud. And the military recognizes that it was a militarized digital attack on our voting system. They will not turn over the reins. They must not turn over the reins. The proper persons in that command tree understand that and now are prepared to take action. The law says, the Military Code of Justice says that they must first protect the Constitution, which is the contract between the people and the government. The contract is in violation right now. The military recognizes that and must restore a valid operation of the contract with the American citizens. Then they must protect the Republic, the group of states that makes up the citizenry of the United States, their various locales of representation across the country. Once they've secured the protection of the Constitution and the Republic, then the next thing is they don't have a coup. They don't have a junta military command take power with the general telling the whole country what to do. The Military Code of Justice directs them to restore civilian authority, lawful civilian control of the government as quickly as safely possible. That means if the persons in the military calling the shots, the military intel side precisely, determined that digital attack on the country occurred, a Manchurian candidate is in office, controlling the country, that some type of foreign influence and control is trying to take control of the country's operation, the government's operation, then the military must, as soon as they've secured constitutional protection and republic, then restore lawful civilian authority. The question is there a question on the vote? Do we have to have a revote in the country? My contention is that the data is very clear. We know what how the vote was cooked. We know the precise numbers and locations where it was cooked and who was involved in it. So we don't need a revote. They just recognize the correct outcome of the vote, which was vetted, validated, verified early on. Now they have to do a transition back to lawful civilian control, which means recognizing Trump as president, the military recognizing, look, Mao said it correctly. Power emanates from the barrel of a gun. That's a pretty harsh statement. I know a bunch of people are rolling over. Their eyes are going out of their heads over this. But excuse me, the force of government is the gun. Who's got the biggest gun? Is it even these federal agencies? Or is it, we have guard troops in all of these states and the military itself. In this particular situation, I'm sorry, but the military has the big gun here, seriously. And they will recognize the lawful civilian authority and institute lawful civilian control of the government. So you could have two presidents at the same time, one recognized by the corporation in DC and the Congress and the courts, which at this point are captured operations, a very specific term in the military and intel community. And then a period of time to transition from this lawful military authority, commander-in-chief, the military recognizing the true victor in the election, and then the true victor, President Trump, then making the determinations how to proceed with lawfully taking control, seizing the reins of power out through the rest of the government, which would take a certain period of time. Is this something that's new? No, we had this back at Lincoln and Jefferson Davis. That's why you hear this stuff about the Lincoln period over and over. Will this be a civil war where you have people in states taking up arms against people in other states? My contention is no, not at all. There may be some little pocket here or there. It'll be a fleece fart. Really, it just won't be that big of a deal because the American people, in large measure, in all of the states, recognize who really won this, and this is a foreign operation. We're in a revolution. Remember, the dossier, everything that came against Trump came out of the city of London. That's where the FBI people, Page and Stroke and everybody were over there doing it. Halper, that piece of shit, lying asshole, traitorous person with dual passport, U.S. and British, he's the one that engineered a lot of this bullshit over the Russian thing and tried to do all this scam and take out, Flynn and things like that. All of those things occurred on foreign shores. As long as the Dominion vote system occurred from courts or the Congress could protect the contract with the American people, the Constitution, the military had no need to act. As long as Trump was still in the presidency after the election, there was no need to act. When the Director of National Intelligence provided his report on election interference on the 19th of January, 1 month late, by the way. When he finally provided his report the day before President Trump was to step down, it showed that there was foreign interference in the election, sufficient to overturn the outcome of the election. So, did the courts do anything to protect the American people by forcing some type of pause or re-examination of the way that the vote was calculated or was being enforced? No, the courts didn't protect, Congress didn't protect. So up until the moment that Biden was sworn, the military really was in a pause moment. They, could put on the illusion of, well, we'll hand stuff over, whatever, but they weren't under the obligation to. At the moment that then the reins of power, President Trump did step down from office. Biden was sworn in. At that moment, the military had an obligation to then, as the last line of defense, the last safety, the military had to do an assessment. The information about foreign interference was real. The military did a comparative analysis of its own sources. It's my contention that they validated, verified, vetted all of that information and determined that President Trump had in fact won, and that a digital attack on America, as real as missiles and bombs and spies and all sorts of other things, a digital attack occurred. It changed the outcome of the election. And now the military had to act. So then, first off, they don't just go off half-cocked. They have to first protect the American people, protect the Constitution, the contract with the government. But first, they have to protect them physically. We have this whole COVID thing. There's, potential attack. President Trump, before he left office, moved 3 carrier task forces off the West Coast. If you go down there, anywhere, Los Angeles to San Diego, all the way up north to San Francisco, you go just stand on the beach and look and tell me what you see. It's a picket line of ships. A carrier task force is made up of 100 ships that do all types of support and protection, submarines, everything. It's a huge group of ships. We have 3 of them off the West Coast right now. What's the reason? To make sure that anybody that thinks we're vulnerable has to think again, because we're in a protective, defensive stance, and we're not letting anybody come in and do anything. Same thing on the East Coast. We have 2 aircraft carrier task forces, 100 ships each, off the East Coast. We have a carrier task force off the coast of China, and that task force off the coast of India. And so also 100 ships each, approximately. We're doing this in order to make sure that everybody understands, while we may have a pause moment in America here, we may have some drama going on, from the military standpoint, we're not, taking any bullshit. Cheyenne Mountain is still closed up tighter than drum, has been since last spring, which is command and control, as well as other similar facilities. And they have not been opened up to observers and assistants from the Biden administration. The Biden administration has not been recognized as the lawful authority over the military at this point in time. Whatever's being done is just for show for the moment. And then the next phase will begin, and that is to get lawful civilian control over the military and then out into the government. The lawful civilian authority, the lawful president, will then direct the military to do what needs to be done to recapture these other locations and reinstitute lawful authority. When it comes to the money, the interaction even out into other countries, that's going to take a while to work through. And there is vulnerabilities, there is dramas there. So will it be instantaneous? No. We got lots of work ahead of us out over the weeks and months and years ahead. And all of that time, you still have to have the American people able to function, to do exchanges, to, do business. The dollar isn't going to zero, and their digital currency frauds aren't going to take control of us. We still have to work in a world where they have their digital currency stuff. So there's some back and forth that's going to happen. People want to look at the various digital currencies. They're mined on computers. Who has the most computers? Who has the computers that are a few generations beyond where the rest of the public is? What's the rest of the scam? You have black hats in positions in these various entities and agencies that are controlling those tools. We're going to have to re-seize power even inside of our own agencies. CIA is the one that was behind a lot of the mischief, along with MI6 and other intelligence agencies related to the Dominion vote system. That's a fact. Let it play out. You're going to see it. And a lot of people are going to have to be clipped there. It's the same thing in the monetary system. We have some people that were playing there. It's going to be a son of a gun. But the cure can't be worse than the disease. So, I probably went off a little bit, but I'm just trying to get that into people's mind. We have to have some momentum maintained in the country, open things up, have meetings of exchange, share our labors one to another. One guy does the restaurant, the other guy does car repair. We have to make it work. Some of the controls, IRS and other stuff, have got to be knifed and killed, but there still has to be mediums of exchange, some banking function, and a transitional period to a new era. At the end of everything, we still have to have energy flowing, and not somebody else's energy from right here in the country. So, Rome wasn't built in a day. All these mechanisms didn't get in place in a day. There's going to be a lot of work to get the country back on a correct, even keel, moving to the future and extracting these tentacles of control that permeate all of American life and structure without killing us. And
Great Reset.
Sensitive work.
Exactly. It's time to counter the Great Reset with our version, Redux or something, the Jubilee, the revitalization of the Constitution. I think that's very much the American Renaissance. I think it's time for a Renaissance.
Yep.
The Great Reset. Yep. How about that?
Yep. Anybody that thinks that we're just reacting and this all just happened isn't understanding. The persons that are involved behind the scenes have picked up the baton from other persons that have been at this for generations, that have had to look at this. This has been gamed out on supercomputers and continues to be gamed out moment to moment. There's a lot in play. There's a lot at stake. Anybody that thinks that, from our side, that there's just reactions going on, is really not understanding the magnitude of what's taking place here in America. There is a very complex operation, and years from now, decades from now, as you understand more of what occurred in this time period, I think people will marvel at the genius and the sense of real patriots worked very hard to get this right and not put their own families at risk as fellow patriots for the country to come up with the right solution. And there's a lot of hard decisions that had to be made. The outcome won't be for everybody. A lot of people are going to be pissed off because it wasn't done their way. But there's when it's like when a young girl gets pregnant and isn't married or something like that. There's no easy decisions. If something's gone awry, there's no easy decisions past that point. And not everybody's going to be happy with the outcome necessarily, but there's only certain right choices that you can make with everything under consideration. God himself did not abort the child when Eve was impregnated. According to their what they believe, what a lot of the Jewish rabbis believe, Eve, when she was beguiled by the serpent, by Satan, by Samael, the devil, in the garden, and became pregnant. It wasn't just eating the apple. The apple was that she, had sex with the devil, if you will, with this alien to the garden. And she became pregnant. And that was Cain. That's why these people believe that they are Cainites. They're more than human. They're the descendants of this alien human hybridization. So when you look at it that way, if that was in fact what happened, let's just talk theoretically. I don't want to get people upset from a biblical standpoint. But this is what the people were fighting believe. They believe they're children of Cain. That's why they have their Cains of the earth, the kings of the earth, these royal bloodlines. If Eve became pregnant in that situation and then went and taught Adam the trick and had children from two different fathers, Adam and the serpent, at the same time, like twins with different fathers, same mother, God didn't decide to abort the baby. He could have had a miscarriage or something like that, but it would have threatened Abel, who she was also pregnant with. So there's these tough decisions that you have to make to get forward. Our country, what's going on here in the country, we have really hard decisions that have to be made, and there's no easy answers. Once things went awry, there's no simple solutions. There's no easy answers. So people have to get to grow up and understand that. And then serious people, men and women, have gamed this out to look at what's the best possible solution to these complex problems that sustain life, that preserve life, that protect life of the American people and people all around the world, because our next actions in these next days, weeks, hours, months, years affect the whole world. And lives are on the line, literally. If we get it wrong, hundreds, thousands, millions, billions even could perish. So there's a lot at stake. And then you get, people that are out there saying that, no, we just shut it all down and we just switch it over this way and you do that. They're being flippant. Look, they're gaming this out on supercomputers and you're working it out on a napkin on the table. I'm not impressed. I know how this is actually going. I understand the people involved, and they're very sincere Americans. They're very sincere with what they're doing. They've been working this problem for a very long time. President Trump, when he was just a businessman, was invited to come and run for the presidency. President Trump won and has been working with those that are trying to recapture control of America back from these monsters. Our build out in the future, our work out in the future is very complex, but, has to be done if we're going to have a future. If we don't win this, these monsters under demonic control, literally, will have us chipped and tagged and enslaved out into the rest of time. Once they've got us in their Tholian web, their machinery, will never break loose of it. The electronic barriers will be so pervasive that you'll never get free of it. And those people that own the controls, the mechanisms, they won't relinquish. This is about the survival, not even just of America, but of humanity. Even their attempts to choke us down and to stop the conversation in the digital world and the social media, even the masks, even the controlling us right down to the breathing and holding the carbon dioxide in us because we're polluting the planet by breathing. That's a satanic mentality.
Exactly, 100%. It's so obvious. It's such a form of the capital. It's like, what is this? Where is it? Trusting the plan is both an act of faith in the overall creation itself, right? Believing in the creator, creation, the creatrix, the female mother, father, creator, without becoming, hey, just sit back and let them take over. Where is that balance that people can find?
It's a really important question. I understand 1000% the strain that people are feeling about doing something, going somewhere, being counted some way. We felt that even after viewing the movie, The Sound of Freedom. And what do we got to do? Because when you realize what's really going on, it's just your human response to go stop this, to get it under control. The only thing I would say, it's like what happened in Texas and Mississippi and other states before that, South Dakota, other locations. The population has come to a certain understanding and they're done with it. They put pressure at the local level, the rest, to accommodate these foreign entities who look the other way. Oh, no, it's okay if we, have a little bit of sneakiness on the vote because it gets our guy in that protects our little club. We just have to say, no, we're not going to allow that anymore. We're not going to allow fake votes. We're not going to allow fraudulent votes. And if the social media says you can't call the election a fraud and talk about the fake vote, then I'm not going to use that social media anymore. I'm not going to be involved in it. I told a candidate the other day, look, if I was going to run for anything right now, I would run for, I'm not running. I will not ask people to donate to me as a candidate when I can't get an honest vote. When you haven't got an honest vote here in Nevada in 2014, you go to the courts, and the courts don't hear you, say you don't have any standing. You get a vote in 2016, you go to the courts and say, hey, somebody screwed things up digitally in here, and you show the evidence, and there's people that aren't even citizens voting. The courts say, yeah, get over it. We're not changing anything. And it gets worse and worse to the point where now you can flip the vote, 75, 80% in many places. Vote one way and it shows up in the digital vote going the other way. The reality is that as long as people will put up with it, they're going to keep doing it and doubling down. Where would I be protesting? I'd be protesting about the vote. I'm not giving one penny to any candidate, until I can be guaranteed that the vote is an honest and fair vote. And any government entity anywhere in the country that won't guarantee that vote can be cross-checked 9 ways from Sunday and verified as American citizens voting, that live where they're voting and are only voting once, till you can get that kind of a guarantee, I'm not giving a penny to any candidate, period. I'm not going to play that game anymore. There's ways to be counted that don't involve burning everything down. And if we didn't get our way, which, let's say that let's just say hypothetically, that some screw up happened and we didn't get this election situation reversed by summer. I'll be the first one out there in the streets saying, yeah, shut the country down. We're not moving. Sad. I want to address that real quick, Sean. Mm-hmm. Upset because President Trump talked about the vaccine while he was in office. He talked about it over at CPAC the other day. We have a vaccine available, et cetera, et cetera. You're dealing with people that have come to the conclusion that the vaccine is the answer. They're so programmed that they can only hear vaccine, 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 vaccine. Okay, for them to be able to operate mentally, emotionally, et cetera, they got to have some, thing to inject in their arm or whatever. If they want it, fine. Don't fucking tell me to take it myself. Don't force me to take it. But yes, if people want it and they think that that's the right answer and they trust the people that have it, go take it. But don't force any of that on us. Cut the bullshit. That's the difference. Americans want freedom of choice to make these decisions. Don't force me to do anything in my own body or my children's bodies. And that's the issue. These people are trying to ram it down your throat. And that's the problem. And we're going to shut that down. And that's where, you want to talk about a civil war? That's where the civil war starts.
Yes, sir.
But that's not what's going to happen. And the president talking about the vaccine, having put a vaccine in play to make the option available, is not wrong. But it has to be maintained as an option. Those states that want to force you to do that are a problem, and they're run by the same people that want to control you all over the world. They're the exact same ones that we're fighting over and over and over. That has to stop.
Yep. And they make themselves more and more obvious. The more they want to take away your freedom, then it's just like they put a sign on their back, basically saying exactly who and what they are and what they stand for. So I trust the American spirit. The American immune system is kicking in here, and it's just not going to work in the United States of America.
Well, and the one thing I will add, I've talked about it before numerous times, but I'm going to say it again. I talked about it almost a year ago. America was going to have, in this election cycle, what was the equivalent of or similar to a near-death experience. A near-death experience from a divine perspective. Somebody that has a near-death experience, they've been given a gift, whether it's a heavenly experience or a hellish experience, to see what is on the far side of this life from an eternal perspective and what is waiting for them. America is getting a chance right now to see what life under these monsters truly would look like. All those executive orders, moving any energy production back to their buddies' places offshore outside the United States, and shutting down jobs here in all the various industries. All those people that were part of the unions that voted for Biden, if you will, and then Biden tells you he's going to shut down mining, he's going to shut down oil production, he's going to shut down the pipelines. Okay, you know what that's the equivalent to? That's the equivalent to a bunch of slugs yelling, "More salt, more salt. We must have more salt. We demand more salt." Are you kidding me? You wanted Biden to kill you, to destroy you? Are you kidding me? He's telling you what he was going to do, and then you voted for this piece of shit, this moron, this idiot, this facade of reality. Come on, man. So now they get to see what that would look like. Wait, don't shut down my pipeline. Don't shut down oil production here. You're going to make those other guys wealthy. If I'm going to work in the oil industry, I got to go to Saudi Arabia or somewhere. I can't live here in America to make a living. Yeah, actually, that's true. So if you're that dense, you're going to vote that way. If you did vote that way, okay, now you get to see what it's going to look like. It's a near-death experience for America. But the beautiful thing about a near-death experience, it isn't an actual death. Otherwise, you wouldn't get to come back and talk about it. I believe that America is being allowed to have this moment to sense, taste, feel. Anybody that has a near-death experience will tell you, heaven or hellish, it's more real than reality is in this world. And I just came across my buddy Daniel Brinkley the other day, and we were talking, and I had Daniel Brinkley, who got struck by lightning, was a for real bad guy doing for real dirty work, did stuff for me back in the day. And I had Jim Caviezel, who was doing the Hollywood stuff, also struck by lightning. He had both guys in a party at the same time. Two guys, it's 1.5 billion or something that gets struck by lightning, or 500,000 or whatever. I had two of them in the same party the other day at the same time. But guys that have had a near-death experience will tell you that it's more real. Every color, the intensity, the sensations, the smells are more real than they are even in this world. That this dangle, this crisis moment in America is feeling very real to people, and they're getting actually for real stressed about it, is as it's intended to be. It's its own kind of a gift to see the outcome. Wisdom is the ability to foresee the consequences out into the future of your present action, the future consequences of present action. What you do now, if you have wisdom, you can see what the end result is down the road. And so you're getting a wisdom experience. You're going to see what it's going to look like if it was to go to this liberal Biden globalist agenda. And now we're going to wake back up. We're going to realize where it was going, and we're going to reorder our fate as a nation, our direction as a nation, who we are as a nation. And then with that knowledge, with that power, we're going to go out into the rest of the world once we've got our own house in order here. And we're going to be our brother's brother, not our brother's keeper, out into the rest of the world. And we're going to go stop these pieces of shit that are trafficking humans, trafficking children, making them their sex slaves, MK Ultraing them. We're going to stop this changing of the human DNA with shots and injections, and this shutdown of humanity in order for these aliens, these other worlders, these Satanists to take control of our world. And it will be a fight. It is a fight right now. We're in the middle of a fight between heaven and hell, good or bad, right or wrong, a demonic, hellish future, or divinely inspired, godly world ahead. That's this fight that we're in the middle of right now. We're going to go the right direction. America's going to go the right direction, and we're going to do the right thing. And we're going to get help. Those people in the military behind the scenes that have the reins right now, that have the power of the gun, are going to make the right decision for America. And we're going to get through this. And then we're going to be out there to help our friends across the world to get free of the same people that want to enslave all of us.